Okay, so these next few videos are going to take us through our canvas painting of the linear still life. This will be part one of several steps, and we're going to include glazing in that. Um, so based on whichever pictures you've chosen to work with, obviously this is one of the choices, but everything I say about this can equally be applied to the other images also, okay? So just kind of keep all that in mind. This is just taking you through one of the images. So the first thing is, once you've downloaded your image and you're looking at it, what I'd like you to do is correct the verticals in the box. You can see that these are not vertical, they're angled. And that has to do with the fact that I was using an iPhone rather than a proper digital SLR. And so things towards the side of the view start to angle slightly. So what I want you to do is don't paint it like this. Because at the end of the day, when people see your painting, they'll say, oh, great painting, but shame you got the box tilted. So just straighten the box up. This is an artifact of the camera that we just want to ignore. Okay, so the first step you're going to be doing is the Imprimatura. This is a very basic step. It's where you lay down the ground using burnt sienna, and then you're roughly getting in the positions of the shapes, and you can see where things have been corrected and moved. You're not trying to go in for a lot of detail. You see, I've made my box more vertical here, but I'm going to end up making it just a little bit bigger. I'm going to shrink this down eventually. But you get a basic layout of what you're doing with this painting compositionally. Okay, so this is an important stage. We are working from photographs for this part of the course, so you pretty much have a photograph to go on. But if you're working from life, you really want to decide how close in you're going to be, what's going to touch the edges, try to avoid things in the middle, and try to avoid things touching the bottom. Okay, but this is pretty straightforward because it's a photograph. Once your Imprimatura has dried, we'll then start the Grazi phase. And this is the sort of the blocking in, the preliminary Grazi. Again, notice that there's no details. We're just going in and looking at the basic shapes of light and dark, squinting your eye if you have to, turn your image upside down, turn your painting upside down, and then keep working on Grazi and take it to a level of completion that you're happy with. Okay, so you don't have to take it all the way to this level. This has got the highlights on the pepper and the red object. You don't have to get to this level of completion, okay? But this is obviously an option. You can take it. And then when this is completely dry, so you should be using liquid if you're working with oils at this stage. When it's completely dry, you're then going to shift to color. All right, so again, you're just kind of roughly putting it in. You're not worried about getting it too accurate. Notice a couple of things. One, this looks considerably more blue than the original. That also has to do with the lighting in the camera. The original painting is very green. I think you'll see that this does change periodically throughout these slides as the daylight from my studio window changes. Okay, so again, you can see, going back to our color unit, how much color is affected by the quality of the light that you're using to illuminate objects, in this case a painting. Second thing I wanted to call your attention to is notice how I painted over the edge of the glass. One thing you want to learn in painting is how to be economical with what you're doing, meaning doing the least amount for the most biggest bang for your buck, so to speak. So if I had to stop every one of these lines at the edge of the glass, I'm going to spend a lot of time kind of easing that out and getting rid of the lumps and the clumps and trying to smooth it out, and it's going to be very awkward. It's much easier just to cross the line, just bring these strokes over the glass, and then take a brush with a little bit of turpenoid or water, and then just wipe along that edge and restore the edge. A straight edge is pretty easy. You know where it's going to be. And that's much quicker to do this and then wipe away your edge than it is to make every one of these end perfectly at those corners. So we're going to see a lot of that throughout the course, where you find economical ways of working. All right, so continue with this. Here I've sort of blocked in the background. In this case, you'll notice that it is a purplish blue, so ultramarine is an obvious choice here. This is a greenish material, so we're using more phthalo blue, but you notice it's slightly dull too, so it's actually got ultramarine mixed in it. The two yellows are mixed in it, and obviously white working in there too. Again, it looks very blue, but trust me, it's green in real life, and I don't feel like changing the photographs of the paintings in terms of their color, because when you change one thing, everything changes, and it just gets too complicated. All right, so the background is laid in with ultramarine. Where it's darker, I've added alizarin crimson. So notice that it goes darker, but it stays rich and deep, just like these blues here are very deep blues. If I was to use black, it would kill the color, and if I was to go to the opposite of blue and use orange, these would go more brown. So we want to keep the richness of our color happening. All right, and if I look down here, it's too bright for this, but I'll fix that later. So this is just the laying in the groundwork. This has a little more detail than I would normally do at this stage, and you'll see as we keep going. All right, so then continuing to block in, putting in the lights. When you're dulling the green, like you are here, so this is kind of a gray, dark green, you don't want just a dark green, you want to kill the color a little bit. So what I've done is I put the opposite of green, which is red. So this has alizarin crimson, which is making it sort of dull. If I don't use alizarin crimson, I just get a dark, high chroma green. And we want that in a few places. You can see here, these reflected lights are really nice bits of green happening in there. But these shadows here, they're very grayish. We don't want to paint gray. We don't want to mix gray in. We just want to kill the color a little bit. And it'll change as we develop. So as we progress through the rest of the painting, again, moving along here, you see the same thing happened here. I crossed the line of the pepper, all right, for the very same reason, and then I just literally wipe that away. Not a problem. Okay, coming to the pepper, it's basically orange, and as it goes into a darker orange, the orange changes and goes slightly redder. Okay, so this is analogous mixing again. But if I go redder, and then when I go darker with my red, I put alizarin crimson, notice how intensely dark that is. Over here, it's much duller. So what happened here, because it's slightly more brownish, is I've used the opposite. So then I put, here's orange, I put some blue into it. And you'll see in a minute how it's going to temper down that color and make it more brown. So this isn't black, this is blue, a little tiny bit mixed into the orange. And again, I will come back and manipulate it and develop it. But at this stage, I'm just laying it in. I've also come down here. This is cadmium red light, and alizarin crimson. So I'm trying not to mix too many colors because I want a high chroma color. This is very bright. It's going to be tricky to get, but we'll come back because this is painting over gray. So another layer of red light with maybe a little bit of yellow in it, or a touch of white will start to make that pop. Again, notice if I go back, notice all the details in here. See the reflection on this side, and there's a bit of a reflection there in the highlight. Get rid of those. Don't worry about them. We're just blocking things in and being really, really basic. So when you come here, just get the light, and the dark, and I left that edge. All right. The purple. Okay, so this purple is almost impossible to make with the colors we have. However, we're going to start with the colors we have, all right, which will give us the brightest purple, and that's going to be ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson. Now you can see when I do that and try and make them stand out with a bit of white, they go a little bit dull. Okay, so with this purple bottle, we're going to try something interesting. We're going to try glazing. Glazing is a process where you put a transparent color on top of a base color. And what that does is it makes the colors have a little more vibrancy, a little more pop. So we really want these purples to sing. So what you'll see happen later is that I'm going to really lighten these, because when you put a transparent color on top, it goes darker because it's canceling light. So what I have to do is I have to paint these I have to paint them lighter than I want them to be in the end. And then when I put a transparent purple over them, you'll be able to see them pop. You'll see as we go along. Okay, so as we move along, I'm putting in the white here. Notice there's color in this white. This white is slightly pink and it's slightly orange, and there's the same color there. You can see the light gray that's around it, but if you look over here, there's a lot of yellow, pink color in this. This is not pure white. Okay, same with the table. It's not pure white. Notice how it goes from this kind of pinky gray, white, and down here it goes a little duller, and over here it's a little more blue and green. Okay, so I'll start to do that as I move around. All right, so here I'm laying in this sort of pinky orange white color. Moving along here, I've got a little duller, and then more blue mixed into it to sort of get this effect. All right, also notice that I've painted over the shadows. Okay, we did this with our studies. We'll put the shadows back in, and when we paint on top of this table color, they're much more integrated and they look much better. And then finally, when I come over here, I can see I need to blend this more, but this is basically the level of darkness of my shadow. I painted over the main shadow that's coming out right here. I'll go put these back in, and then on the box I've put some, this is a yellow mixing with blue and purple. It's going slightly greenish. All right, so you can see the yellow is actually reflecting from down here, this kind of pinky orange, slightly yellowish color up here. So I'm a little too dark right there. Don't worry about it. Just letting it dry, and we'll come back over. Okay, so this is a blocking in stage. Too many, you're not going for too many details, but you're not being too crude. We've done lots of work to get all these shapes. Unlike maybe the glass or the pear from the studies previous, where you could paint over the whole thing, we do not want to just paint over this with color and start again. We want to keep to our shapes and the shapes of our shadows. Let it dry, and we come back and we do another layer and we'll refine it.